hobby friends, and welcome back to Paint Bravely, the podcast where you can find a little bit of encouragement, discover new ways to make your hobby more fun, and most importantly, learn to paint bravely. All right, well, we are at semi-officially, probably officially, episode 100, which, you know, that's a lot of episodes of old Paint Bravely. We've done a lot. We've talked about a lot. It's been kind of ridiculous most of the time. And we got some comments about, you know, people are a little bit worried about episode 100. Annika was worried, said, you know, you're not going to try and change or do anything, you know, professional or competent or anything, because that's not what they're here for. And I have to tell you, no, we decided, we had a lot of talks about episode 100, and we decided there's no reason to change. There's no reason to try and, you know, make this a professional arrangement or be more than we are. We're just who we are. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about some hobby stuff. We got some cool stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on, actually, in the last couple of weeks. It's been Christmas. We're hitting New Year's, episode 100, all this stuff. But I'm going to turn it over to Brent. What's going on, Brent? What you been doing last couple of weeks, hobby-wise?
Yeah. Episode 100, depending on how you count Kobold Talk 1 and 2, landing on Monday, the 1st of January, 2024. So we're entering a whole new era here on episode 98 of Paint Bravely, the podcast.
Like, technically speaking, sure.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways. Look, maybe we could get a little bit special on episode 104, which would be the 4-year anniversary of Paint Bravely, the podcast, because we have not missed a...
Is it really?
I don't want to say we haven't missed a week. We've missed every other week, but we have reliably missed every other week.
Yeah, we haven't actually missed an episode, right? That's how you would count that, episode. We haven't missed one in almost 4 years. That's pretty dumb.
Yeah, so we're coming to you with reliable every other week hobby nonsense. And since you asked, Casey, I want to talk about my lizards.
Awesome. I love lizards.
All right. So, you know, last year I was painting up a whole lot of one-page rules, lizards, dinosaurs, riding dinosaurs, and all that. At the time, I was printing everything they had. Yeah. Seraphon, Starhost, the whatever they called their their old timey fantasy one. Yeah, they're Seraphon, not Starhost. Like Seraphon in the medieval jungle, whatever they called that. I forget.
Aztec dinosaurs, like not Seraphon, not Starhost, not
one-page rules, Aztec dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
So I was printing out everything that they had, and a lot of stuff just didn't get painted. And today, for the first time, I finally assembled all the bits of... I've also forgotten the name of this model, but it is the iguana-sized dinosaur. It is the ridiculously large for tabletop gaming dinosaur. It comes in two variants. It comes in a variant without a howdah on top, and it comes in a variant that is keyed for 4 individual pieces of deck, of howdah that go on this guy. Yeah,
like a big deck tent.
Yeah. So I've got my lizards here, and previously I only knew these as like 10 very large chunks of hollow resin that have been sitting in one of my plastic bins for a while. Actually, coincidentally, they were sitting in my plastic bin that smells like fish because I had fish rocks in there for a while beforehand.
Makes sense.
But in the intervening year, I cleaned out the fish rocks. I started using that bin for storage. I put some 3D prints in there. I couldn't figure out why they all smelled like fish. I figured it out. But here we are, 2024. It's a new year. I know why it smells like fish. And I've put together these iguanas, we're going to call them. I have never owned an iguana. I can't remember if I even ever like pet an iguana. But
really? Okay.
But this model reminds me of nothing so much as an iguana in size, shape, personality.
Personality, like just sits there. Man, iguana can be they can be feisty. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
They got these tails especially when they get bigger. Then they will come at you and they will whip you.
Whew.
Yeah. They're just like, I don't like you, and they will whip you.
Yeah, we got these, we call them garden snakes up in Maine. They're completely non-venomous. They're just little guys, but you're mowing the lawn. You're like, hey, get out of here, snake. Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
we got those out here. Although, I shouldn't say that. We got them near here. Out here where I am, we got the poisonous kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I got these iguans. And the reason I wanted to talk about them is I just wanted to start a discussion about larger 3D prints.
I love it. Yeah.
So these minis, which are no longer minis because they're the size of a full-on pet iguana.
Yeah.
They're cut up and keyed to be printed on like regular size printers, standard size printers, whatever. And so this is it's like 9 pieces for the body plus 4 legs. So this is a model that I think is 13 pieces.
That's so many pieces.
You know, if it were a plastic model, that would be a very reasonable number of pieces.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. But still.
But the problem is with a 3D printer resin, it warps and shrinks a bit more than, plastic or casting resin or anything like that. And so I found when I went to go put it together, I'm forgetting those 15 pieces, whatever. Anyway.
Okay. It's like some extra spikes that are separate or something. Yeah.
I haven't even put the howdah on yet.
Oh my God.
That's 4 more pieces. You start putting the little dinosaurs on top of their riding positions there. You start putting little flags on it. Anyway, I'm not worried about those. Those will all fit on fine.
Yeah.
But when it is one organic creature and you're printing out 13 parts and there's just a little bit of shrinkage, a little bit of warping in the 3D printer resin, they don't go together great. Like the person who did the 3D modeling did a fantastic job. The cuts are in logical places. The keying is all very professional and like it should work. But if I, depending on my printer settings, depending on the resin I'm using, what I'm washing it in, how long I take until I do the final cure on it, how long it's in the final cure, how long it's in my plastic box that smells like fish before I glue things together. I actually don't think that variable's too important. But,
probably not, no, realistically speaking.
But my point is that there's, a couple of percent warpage essentially on each one of those 13 bits. And so when I went to glue it together, they don't quite fit together right.
Yeah.
And so I've got 2 iguans here that have really pretty bad gaps in them.
I mean, like the cameras, like I'm watching, obviously we're talking over webcam. Yeah. That gap is like considerable.
It's visible on your webcam.
Yeah, like it's a gnarly gap. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a center line gap. There's a gap right where his lizard belly button would be.
Yeah.
There's a couple in the tail, a couple on the neck. Oof. The legs actually slotted in mostly pretty well, but this is a situation where I'm gonna have to watch that old Marco video where he's mixing up milliput, putting in alcohol, getting the milliputty butter.
Millibutter. Yeah.
Millibutter. Yeah.
Millibutter. Yeah.
You have to fill these all in like Marco Frazzoni taking care of a lizard,
Yeah, just an iguana. Just filling in some gaps.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you have anything to say on that. I just wanted to start the conversation about large 3D prints, essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly I have some things to say because, in Paint Bravely fashion, we did talk about 5 minutes before, and I gathered my thoughts on this topic. So I grabbed a print off of my shelf that I did. It's a Titan Forge Gargant, and it's a pretty big print. But like it actually looks really good. And I think that there is a limit, I guess. I think that 3D printing, especially resin 3D printing, like I think there's a specific limit. If you can kind of fit everything on 1 to 2 plates worth, that's like, okay, I got the body, I got the arms, the legs, kind of like the standard build for a model. I think it's fine to have a large model. But when you start to cut up pieces, like I've been printing out these dwarfs from One Page Rules. I got everything in the army printed up. Like literally all of the models that are in that army. I've printed, I don't know, it's got to be over 100 models at this point. And the last model that I have to print is this giant combat excavator, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yes, with a combat excavator. And I don't know how that's combat, whatever. But like the base, like it's like over 60 different parts that you can print out for this thing. And the base itself is in 4 pieces. And the printer that I'm using is a large printer. It's like 10.5-inch build plate, right? And I mean, realistically, for what most people are buying that's just out there on the market, like that's kind of the big size, right? Unless you're spending a lot of money getting, you know, one of those huge, like more industrial style 3D printers for at home. But like not a lot of people are doing that. So like if you have to break up the base into 4 separate like 9-hour prints, something's gone wrong. We've gone too far. I think this is like, because it doesn't quite look right. And the gaps are so big that it's like, why are we 3D printing if the idea was to do things we couldn't do in traditional model making? If we can't cast this in 1 piece or 2 pieces or something simple, like why would you print it in like 20 pieces? That just seems crazy to me. Like we're moving backwards as we're moving forward. Like, yeah, you can do this at home and get this model and whatever, but like, man, you're doing so much work that it just doesn't feel worth it anymore. And the amount of money, it's not like you're saving money because you can print unlimited models. Now you're spending $30, $40, $50, $70, $100 on one large
resin
print,
and time.
And time. Yeah. And like time is money. I don't care what you say about whether or not you're doing anything with your hobby time to make money or whatever it is. It's like that is time spent that you could be doing something more productive. I just feel like there are more productive things than trying to build this gigantic 3D printed resin model that isn't going to look that good in the end.
Yeah, that's part of it. So I hadn't really considered the lines, the seam lines, the joins, the cracks, the gaps.
Yeah.
But they're very real. Just the nature of 3D printing resin, it's hard to control the shrinkage, the warpage, or at least without doing a whole lot of optimization, which involves printing a lot of large parts, which is not going to happen.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? It's like, yes, there are people out there who are going to be doing 3D printing as like their full-time hobby. That's what they really like to do. And I think that's great. But that also means that there's a lot of time and effort put into, like you said, optimizing, getting all this stuff out proper. So when it keys together, it's like, no, I'm not worried about these gaps because it is perfect. Well, that means you have a perfect environment, perfect resin, perfect settings, perfect everything else to make sure that what you have on your machine and your location and temperature and all these things works perfectly. That's a lot of effort on its own. And like, if that's your only hobby, I totally get it. And I think that's great because that's what you're there for. But for most people using a resin printer, like that's not going to happen. And these things are drawing us in to buy these kits and these parts and whatever it is. And it's like, man, I feel really bad getting a big pack or something and then having this like centerpiece be a thing that like I can't do it. It's too much.
Yeah. And that makes me feel bad for, the designers and everything because like there are a very small pool of people who are willing and able to try to print that out. Yeah. And then the percentage of people who would actually paint it after that goes down again. And that combat excavator has been probably painted once by the company.
I've never seen it painted.
Ooh.
Even on their opportunity thing, I don't see it. Yeah, that's true.
Now you have to spend a week printing it just to make a video. I'm the only person to ever paint this model.
Actually, that's an interesting way to look at it. Like, if you were to put the time and effort into doing something like that, you might actually be the only person who has ever done that.
You would get an email from the sculptor that's just like, oh my God,
I'm so excited.
I didn't imagine it in that color, but I only ever saw it in gray before.
Right,
so
yeah,
cool.
Exactly. Look, if I'm going to paint a combat excavator, I'm not putting in the time and effort to make it a friggin' Space Dwarf combat excavator, okay? It's going to be yellow and red, and it's going to be turned into an orc vehicle, because I'm not going to spend that much time for something I'm never going to use.
I thought you were going to say you were going to go down to the store and you were going to buy a $4 Tonka truck and glue some dwarves to it and a turret.
I love this idea. I'm so on board right now. Yeah. That makes so much more sense. At a certain point, right? That's your alternative. That's what you're shooting for. Like, I have my son's literal Tonka excavator that's in the sand pit in my backyard. I will use and will make sense.
He's not going to miss that till come spring.
Yeah, it's winter right now. We're fine.
Yeah, you've got months to make it into something better that he'll forgive you for.
Well, and if I transform it enough, he'll never even know.
Yeah,
it's already weathered and it's yellow. That's what I was going to paint it anyway. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Man. But so I continue to like 3D printing. I think it's fun. I think there's some stuff that it does really well. Like a nice detailed 75 millimeter model looks so good on a 3D printer, especially if you can get it in one or maybe two parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It can be so good. And, we were talking before, like there are some bottom limits on the scaling, like for the companies that have their models kind of tuned to either 28 millimeter or 32 millimeter. I think normally the 32 millimeter works a lot better, just a little bit thicker, a little bit more durable.
Yeah. Yeah, I've printed out actually like a fair amount of models in the last like few months, right? Been working with this GK2, we've talked about it a few times. Really cool, really good printer. Best prints I've gotten since I've started 3D printing. But like I've printed some pretty fiddly stuff. And like it's all 25 mil stuff. And it's, I don't know, it's borderline. Like I wouldn't recommend anything in 25 millimeter on a 3D printer, because now you're getting into this weird territory of it being like, sure, the size is fine for like D&D or whatever.
Yeah.
But the weapon, the scale of 25 millimeter is just so thin that like a sword and like chains that are hanging off a model or cloth or anything like that is just so thin that you're gonna break it. Like it's 100%. You will drop it at some point, especially if you're actually playing a game with it. You will break it, and that's just a bad feeling. The 32 mil stuff and up, like it's a little thicker. Certain companies, like I've noticed that too. Like I like certain companies more because they design thicker pieces. One Page Rules is a good example. Like they generally have thicker models, and I like that because I don't feel like I'm gonna break them. Yeah.
There's this Iguan's. He's beefy. Like
he has a thick boy.
It feels good. Feels good. Yeah. They're nice hollowed out pieces, and they are keyed very well. Like they have little nubs so that they integrate and like, basically internal pinning and everything. But too many cuts. And
the fact that they're like split in half and the tail is split in half on top of that is like too much for me. I would have looked at that file and been like, never mind, I'm not printing this.
Well, live and learn. But a lot of the, especially like the monthly subscription ones and stuff, or people that sell on My Mini Factory, they're using the wow factor of like showing the army, and then there's a couple of centerpieces behind there. And sometimes, like if they do a second month of release of that army, they'll one up their previous centerpiece. So this isn't even the largest dinosaur from One Page Rules.
It's not?
There's one that's like coiled around a full-on pyramid.
Oh man.
And I don't know the names of all these, but I looked at that like, ooh, like
I have that pulled up.
So and sometimes, they're made for people who have standard size printers or people who have like standard large printers, I guess, if that makes sense, like one of the larger 4K ones. A lot of times there isn't even the full complete file for your your Uncle Jesse's, your faux hammers, your people who actually are equipped to just go for it.
Yeah.
And do the whole thing.
For sure. I don't know. It's tough.
Some good whinging on that. I'm satisfied.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy 3D printing. Like it's one of my favorite tools in the hobby. It's like up there with airbrushing for me. Like when I got it, it was like, wow, this unlocks something real. Like there's some actual use to be had here and creativity that I can dive into. And it's been like that, but I do think there are limits for sure. Yeah, it's been a while since we've kind of talked about 3D printers, hasn't it?
No, we do it pretty frequently.
I mean, it's
been a couple weeks.
It's been like 2 weeks. Yeah. Every other week we talk about 3D printing. No, I mean like in earnest, like a full on conversation about like where we're at, but we're making fun of like GK and Anycubic last time or the time before. I don't know. Now we're here. But
you're saying all these nice things. Your representative might get to keep their job, or
crush.
Maybe
might see another day at the
even
factory.
get a raise.
You never know.
You
never know. God, Anycubic needs to. Anybody got a contact? Just let me know. Let me know. Just don't
All right, we should switch topics to something that makes you happy. What
makes
you happy, Casey?
It was just the holidays, and traditionally, like we get some stuff. You buy any, or do any, or gift any, or get any gifts of minis or things in that nature?
I already told you all the stuff I bought on Black Friday.
Yeah,
no new acquisitions.
Oh, okay. So you went out on Black Friday and you're just like, that's it for me for the next like quarter.
Yeah, I think there's still some Tabletop World stuff coming in the mail. They gotta ship that from.
Oh yeah.
I always get it wrong. Croatia. I think Croatia might be Czech Republic.
Right. Okay, Croatia. That sounds right too. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel bad now, but I'm just waiting waiting on some stuff from Tabletop World, but it'll get here when it gets here, and then I'll have some more little houses.
Well, speaking of which, though.
That'll be the end of Christmas 2023 for old Brent here.
Yeah. Man. So I kind of made an interesting. No, I'm not going to say it's a mistake because I'm appreciative, and I am truly. But so I use my Amazon wish list like to just kind of keep stuff throughout the year. But then when it comes time for the holidays, like my parents especially will go to the Amazon list and be like, well, this is clearly what he wants, so we're gonna shop off this list, right? Well, I know like a month ago I bought just a lot of bases from Amazon because there's a couple different companies. See, Brent's got his bag of bases. I got my bag of bases here. These are the Eve model. You can kind of hear that. Oh yeah, gotta love that sound. I bought some bases, and I bought a lot of bases, right? Hundreds and hundreds. Are you just lifting the same bag on camera and off camera? I can't tell what you're doing. And I got another several hundred bases for Christmas because they're fairly inexpensive as far as like a gift would be. So now I have far too many plastic bases, and I need to do something with them. And I 100% forget the point of what I was trying to say. But
they're good for color swatches.
Yeah, and I might have to do that. But yeah, I got a lot of bases for Christmas. There's actually a majority of the hobby gifts that I got were bases, purely bases. So I have maybe 400 or 500 like 32 mil rounds.
Ooh, yeah. Good size.
I didn't put any squares on my list, and I should have, because I am looking forward to doing some Tomb Kings and some other fun fantasy stuff that's coming up onto some square bases, and I didn't put them on there. But the list is there, and like I keep track and I do things, and then I forget about it, and Christmas comes around, and then I'm like, oh yeah, all that stuff that I put on my list, and it shows up. It's like, it's great, and now I have all these bases I need to figure out what to do with. So yeah, I also got some army painted grass tufts. Those are nice.
Oh, I already have those.
I got a lot lowland shrubs.
Merry Christmas.
Yes. Oh, and I got these like leaves in a jar. That was actually pretty fancy. I was excited.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I got like brown, yellow, and green and red, and I'm pretty stoked about these. They're like little
the
cutout
4
leaves.
seasons: brown, yellow, green, and red.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, I'm gonna make. I finally got my plinths in the mail for my like resin beast and stuff, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good Christmas. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Let's see. What else you got, Casey?
I got a huge list, and I'm trying to like sort it mentally, and I'm looking at it on the screen over here. Because like your list is couple of things long, and mine's like 40 things long. I got this sweet silicone desk cover. Yeah.
Okay.
I know it seems weird. So like I bought a bunch of silicone mats for my 3D printers. If you spill resin, whatever, you cure it, wipe it off, it kind of cracks off, and you remove it. It's no big deal. But I've been like using one as kind of this dry palette that you just like wipe off, or you bend it and the paint just flakes off. And it's kind of like those pop, the pop things, whatever people have been using lately, but just in a large flat mat, and they're super cheap. But my wife got me a table-sized one. So on my main table, I have this huge silicone mat that just is slapped down on top. So it's basically like a giant palette that you can put whatever you want on and just cleans off.
That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Yeah, it is pretty nice. It's just like dump some isopropyl alcohol in there, and it cleans up as brand new. It's amazing. Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. Good work.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about that. I've been really working at getting my space like kind of up to snuff. Really shooting for that level 10, hobby room.
It's looking good. Every time I see your space, you've got an extra cabinet there filled with painted minis. You got more lights. You're sitting at a nicer looking chair. Like, it's all coming together. It's all coming up, Casey.
Yeah. Yeah, every other week something gets added to this room that's really pushing it. Although like I've got these like stored like black storage cabinets out here, and I've got this little bench that's kind of sat in front of them. And like my whole hobby space feels a little bit like a locker room right now. Like I'm going to go over there and sit and like, dress out for like gym or something. It's a little weird.
Yeah. It gets you in the mood, gets you in the zone.
Yeah.
Puts you in the right headspace.
Pumping me up. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. It was a rough first half, but we're going to get them. We're going to get them next time. Yeah.
Exactly. I got my shipment of what are they? Nightmare? Let's see now. I forgot the name. I think it's Nightmare. Yeah, Night Models. Night Models.
I feel like it's Nightmare spelled with a K.
It is Nightmare spelled with a K.
Yes.
Night Models is the store.
So those are the metal old style orcs, right?
Yes, made by the dude who made the original orcs for GW back in the Rogue Trader days, the early ones, good ones. I ordered like way too much, and I finally got them in the mail, and they are epic. Oof. Like they, even in unpainted metal, they look really good. So I just wanted to say that I got them. So it's not like it's some fake garbage company selling fake models or something. Like they came in the mail, they're real, and they look super good. I thought though, like, because what I wanted to do is maybe like put them together, prime them, zenithal, all the stuff, get them like prepped for when I feel like, hey, I want to paint these, I can just grab one out and it's like prepped and ready to go, right? That's actually been something I want to talk about at some point. It's like prepping your entire collection, but we'll get there. But I've wanted to do that so that I could do that. But then I thought, I might actually mix these up with my GW orcs.
It'd be hard to tell. You'd be able to fool yourself pretty quickly.
I'm pretty sure I could.
Yeah, Eric from Eric's Hobby Workshop could tell them apart. He'd be able to sort them out in 5 seconds. But
well, that's clearly not.
But as long as you can fool yourself, that's good hobby time right there.
I feel like it's a good thing, even though it might be like, breaching some kind of contract or whatever.
Yeah, Eric would be sitting there. He'd be like, "That's a big gun from '98. That's a big one. Yeah, this is our boy. This is Nightmare Miniatures. 2022. Yeah."
It's still the same. It's like the same sculptor. So it's like he has this distinct style. And it's really in a weird spot of like, are you just copying the company that you worked for? Or are you just doing your thing?
Just doing his thing.
I mean, he is. Yeah. Because that's how they're doing it. And that's what they're going to do. And that's how they're going to continue. But it's like they're really close. Like really close.
He was sculpting orcs back when they were spelled ORC. So the lawyers at the company recognized that they had to introduce some idiotic misspellings in order to even attempt to trademark their orcs. So
to trademark the orcs, yeah.
Copyright their orcs, whatever.
No, you're right. You're right.
Trademark the word, copyright the existence of a line of orcs. I don't know. I'm not a British lawyer. But if I ever went to Britain to engage with their legal system, I would get a wig. No, I wouldn't. I'd do it my hair. I'd do it my hair like George Washington, and I'd go in there and tell him all about orcs.
Didn't George Washington wear that?
And I would win.
Or did he just like style his hair to look like that, or did he wear a wig? Because
I feel like he showed a lot of forehead for a man wearing a wig, but I could be wrong.
He had a lot of forehead.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't know. It might have been an ill-fitting wig. I don't know. It's just right up at the top here.
Americans, please let us know in the comments how cool George Washington was and whether or not he wore a wig.
Yeah,
probably in his like much later years he had a wig, but I mean in the cool years,
like the boat across the river years. Yeah. The Delaware years.
Was Christmas. That's a Christmas story right there.
There you go. Yeah. Look at that. It's Christmas. It's New Year's. We're right on target. We got this.
George Washington across the Delaware with a couple boats full of orcs. The biggins. Yeah, he took the elites. Yeah.
Perfect. I want to see that. Somebody get on that AI. Give me some of that. Orcs crossing the Delaware.
Before I forget, so I'm I hear you on your Nightmare Miniatures awesome orcs, and they interest me. I've been looking at a Kickstarter that's going on. It's Avatars of War.
Physical
Legendary Orc Warriors Regiment. Physical Forge.
There are like 16 different orcs on there.
Yeah, it's a multi-part orc kit, so they got legs, torsos, arms, weapons, heads. And it's CO cast, but like the actual sculpts of the orcs, they're looking old style. They're looking like mean old greenskins.
Yeah, I seen this Kickstarter. I seen it.
Yeah. So Physical Forge, Avatars of War. I don't know. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about it.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. Like
I've got a couple of weeks to make up my mind here.
Like for the amount that you're getting, I think it's. I could be better, but it's reasonable. It's reasonable enough, Yeah. They're definitely cool looking orcs, so gotta give them that.
Yeah, it's reasonable if you've got some Christmas bucks. Like if anyone's saying, "Oh, I didn't get anything cool for Christmas, but I got this grandma money."
That's true. I literally
maybe you get yourself some multi-part orc kits. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma. Well, my birthday is like. In December, it's near Christmas, so it's like I kind of get this weird double up generally. It's kind of the bummer about that. But my grandma does hold on to the happy birthday like card that she sends me until I go up there for Christmas, and there's usually some grandma bucks in there. So Although I technically did spend my grandma bucks on some space rats from Mantic. Kind of want orcs now.
I mean, if you match the donation from your grandma, thus giving you double grandma bucks to also get some orcs, space rats and orcs.
It's fair. It's a fair point.
Yeah, a generous donor has matched grandma's donation to the hobby collection.
It's funny. That's basically how I look at it too. It's like, what can I get half off of? Like with this amount of money.
There you go. Grandma doesn't know how much orcs and space rats cost.
That's true. She doesn't. She doesn't know.
We'll help her out a little bit. Help her get me the perfect Christmas gift.
Mm-hmm. No, I picked up the Veerman Strike Force from Mantic. I've been meaning to for a long time, and somebody like mentioned it in a comment on my now fairly old Space Rat video that I did that poll for, which actually got a good amount of like traction on like whatever change.org or something. Yeah. Like, I think we got like a couple thousand like signatures or something stupid like that. But yeah, like Mantic makes space rats, and somebody reminded me of that. And I was like, holy crap, I totally meant to like buy those. And so I just went out and I bought the Strike Force, which was on sale for Christmas. So it was like I think $75 for, and there's gotta be like 50 models in that pack. It's huge. Like Mantic doesn't screw around with filling a pack, you know. Not that I'm ever planning on playing a Mantic game. I don't have any of their rule books or anything. But I definitely want to use them because, like, I think One Page Rules has rules for space rats and
they do
some other stuff. So
yeah, they've got rules for that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of their STLs. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pretend like I'm gonna play that. That feels better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've been busy over there. I've just been.
It's true.
Been up to my normal stuff. I finally got out my microscope video, looking at all those metals. That was fun.
You did. That was a good video. There's a lot of cool looking like photos in that video. You know. A lot of the slides looked pretty awesome. Like photography that people don't see very often, or if ever, you know.
Yeah. Makes me want to sell my car and get a better microscope. Makes me want to.
I mean,
which is basically what it would take.
Yeah. Like to move up from like the standard microscope you can get to like an actual good one. Is it that big of a price jump?
Scientific equipment goes stuff you can get on Amazon, stuff that's the price of a car, stuff that's the price of a house. Like that's just the grades of scientific equipment.
It makes sense
for almost any piece that you need.
Yeah. I mean, selling your car to buy a microscope, like that's a ballsy move. I think you should do it. You should definitely.
It's a good YouTube title.
I know what kind of car you have.
Still not a great microscope.
Yeah, it's an all right microscope. Okay, it's okay. I had the same car. Yeah, weirdly, Brent and I have the same car.
We'll see if the used car dealer has any trade-in program for microscopes.
You never know. You never know. I mean, sometimes, and I'm being honest here, sometimes they literally send out things that are like, you buy this car and you get yourself a fancy new telescope. So, you know, microscope's not that far out of the realm.
But those are always like $35 telescopes that they just take out of the box.
It's also fair. Yeah, it's possible. So you're better off just buying the one you have on Amazon. I think we're back to where we started.
Yeah, there we are. But anyway, that was a fun video, and the moral of it is actually very quick to tell if a metallic paint uses mica versus aluminum. Mm-hmm. They look completely different under my $150 microscope. And so, there's just been this perception in the hobby that the best or most expensive hobby paints use aluminum to make their paint shiny, to make them look like a metal, whereas maybe the cheaper paints use mica to do, make the paint shiny, make it look like a metal.
Yeah.
And a little bit, but also it's more mixed up than you might think, and there's a lot of paint lines that have some mica, some aluminum. So like a lot of gold paints will be mica, and the mica can be colored, dyed, and so there might be brown mica to make a gold paint, whereas for they'd use aluminum for like silver and steel. And it was just very interesting to be able to bust those myths, or at least be able to talk about our hobby supplies a little more accurately. And that was good.
It's pretty fascinating. Like, I mean, you see the way that the stuff's broken down, and some of the metal, like the mica is like a little bit finer, and you wouldn't necessarily know it's mica, that kind of thing. It's interesting to see. I still, even after watching that video, I still feel like the ones with the aluminum just look better.
I think I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah.
So I will say, like, Turbo Dork was using a lot of mica. A lot of the like colored metallics were using a lot of mica. And so mica's okay. So the big difference is that mica is translucent and aluminum is opaque. And so, you know, a thin layer of paint that's using aluminum as the metal pigment is more likely to be opaque than a thin layer of paint that uses mica. And the flip side of that coin is that mica you can get kind of some depth to mica. So especially if you want to do like a bright red metallic, green metallic, blue, whatever, if you're stacking layers of blue tinted mica on top of each other, you're getting more depth and more saturation, more color saturation.
It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot more reflection of like that light off of the mica and the like bouncing back at you, that type of thing.
Yeah, and supposedly mica actually is a little bit more reflective than aluminum.
Interesting.
Also, my understanding is that it's a little bit easier to get aluminum into a suspension to make the paint out of. And so there's less fussing around with the paint medium that needs to be done by the factory, by the companies. So there's various trade-offs, and it's not all just do you use mica or aluminum. There's obviously all kinds of stuff going on with the paint medium and the binder and all that. But yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty fascinating for sure. I wonder. I mean, I don't think you came across this at all in any of your samples, but is anybody using both at the same time? Like, it seems like you could do both. I don't know.
The answer is yes.
Sort of?
And I found this very recently.
Oh, okay.
I think you knew the answer to this already, Casey. I think you're baiting me.
I may have subconsciously thought about it, but no, I'm not. I'm serious. Like I didn't. I just thought about this. So
one of our topics that we have on our list for today is the day this podcast comes out is actually the first day that the embargo is lifted for talking about Warpaint Fanatic.
I've been holding some up a little bit here. Not that I was.
Oh, there you are.
I got some over here on the side.
Okay, good.
Got my little rack of Warpaint Fanatics over here.
Yeah, and so they're coming out with 18 new metallic paints, and of course I had to make me 18 slides of those to put on my microscope. And essentially what I found is like about a third of them are aluminum, about a third of them are mica, and then I guess the other third are actually a combination. Like you put it on the microscope and they're like mostly mica. So maybe it's like 90 or 95% mica, but there's 5 or 10% aluminum in there. And I don't know, best of both worlds, or
I mean, it's interesting
that works well enough.
You want the reflectivity of mica with the coverage of aluminum, then I can see that happening.
Yeah, that may be the case. That may be what's going on there.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise for me, and actually, I communicated that back towards the army painter.
Yeah.
So in some of their early marketing, they'd talked about, we got a new line of metallics coming out. We're using more aluminum content in our paints. And depending on how you read those advertisements, it actually sounded like they were using like all aluminum in their paints.
Right. I think a lot of people are under that impression, actually.
Yeah. So I was sitting over here playing with my little microscope. I'm like, that's mica.
You're like,
that's mica.
It's
And
clearly reflective rainbow rocks here. Like, what are we gonna do?
So I got my guys on the line. I'm like, you actually have like a lot of mica in this metallic line, and they looked at my slides and they're like, oh, yeah, this is actually more mica than I think the marketing people thought. Yeah. And so I don't know if they got their wires a little bit crossed over there.
I mean, who knows? Like that process from whatever people are mixing paint, doing this on this day and that day. Who knows? But
yeah. But I mean, the paints I've tried, the metallic paints that I've tried are solid. Like there's I haven't done a ton with them, but I've swatched a few of them out, and they're like, yeah, looking good.
Do you want to just talk about Warpaints Fanatic? Just do like
jump on in. Jump on in.
Go right now.
But yeah, I just wanted to set the record straight that there's mica and aluminum in that line, and something that I had not seen before then. They have like 6, 7, 8 paints that have mica and aluminum, and I don't know if that 5% aluminum just increases the opacity a little bit or what, but
I would think so. I think they're shooting for opacity on a lot of, at least from what I've seen from the marketing materials, like doing swatches on black bases and stuff. It's like, look, this is one coat, compare that to any other paint. What does that look like? We all know that Guinness Gold coverage, right, is abysmal. A lot of GW metallics are like their base, obviously they're differentiated by base and layer, but it's like that. It's like the mica doesn't seem to cover very well at all. But having the Fanatics paints be kind of this like, it's really thick, really pigmented, it's gonna cover and it's gonna do its job. Like, okay, I can see that. Like, it definitely is that. Like, in most of the paints that I've used, it's good. Like, I can get one coat and be fine with it.
Yeah, I've been swatching some out. I've been painting a bunch of models with the Warpaint Fanatic, and it is so much better than their last version of Warpaint.
Yeah. No, I think that the distance that they've come is tremendous. Like, it is seriously night and day from the normal like Warpaints that they've had forever. I mean, like they took a good place in the market that certainly needed to be filled. The like inexpensive entry point, right? For a lot of people, it's going to do the job most of the time. But then, when you're starting to improve and you're having to fight the paint to do that, it really hurts you as a painter trying to get better. And I think that, because I still don't technically know the price of each bottle. Like, we kind of sort of know, but not technically.
I think they announced $425.
Did they actually announce that? I didn't see the video.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. Well, in that case, then I think they're in a good spot. These paints being competitive in price, being, I think, slightly larger than some of the other ones, or I guess Citadel in particular, is going to do a lot, right? Because Army painters are already so widespread. They're like, out of the mini painting stores that I have near me, I think all of them have Army painter.
Yeah.
And
that's the big reason why we care about the releases from Army Painter, is because they are so widespread. I mean, we're lucky that we have at least 10 paint companies in our little hobby that are all putting out, realistically, they're all putting out some good products. Like, there are good paints from, we can sit here and list 10, maybe 15 companies, and that's awesome. But we don't talk about the releases from every one of them. We talk about Army Painter because, at least for us, they are in all of our nearby stores. Like, their distribution is just so solid in America and through lots of Europe that it's relevant. Yeah.
No, I think they've done a really good job at like kind of establishing this network, right, throughout all these countries and stores and all these things, and bringing in these paints now. Like, I mean, they're gonna kill it. It's gonna be insane.
Yeah. So, to the best of my knowledge, I mentioned that there's 10 or 15 hobby paint brands out there. I've tried half of them, but to my knowledge, the old Army Painter Warpaint was the worst one. Like, just that's on average, if you were to pick a random color from a couple of different lines, and there's some in that old Warpaint range that is just be like, oh, I don't know what this is, but this loses. Like this, F-. Like that.
They had some decent colors. I bought some of their like color match series ones that were pretty good.
Yeah. There are some ones that are fine. Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like, making paint is kind of a solved challenge. Like, people like humans have been making paint for hundreds of years and acrylic paint for decades at least at this point.
It's just whether or not you can eat it and you die is the thing.
So most of the hobby companies are making fine or great paint. Like, my scale is basically good enough or not, and pretty much every other brand is solidly in the good enough category, and the old Warpaint was not.
Yeah, I mean, especially for what you and I are shooting for generally, like most of the paints we use are like fine.
It's just like, this one you don't thin much, this one you gotta thin. Like that's the difference for a lot of stuff.
I find that the new Army Painter stuff's, it feels a lot like Vallejo. Like, it's kind of on that level where it's like, it's pretty thick, but not like overly thick. You know, where like Pro Acryl's on the kind of thin side.
Yes.
So it's like, it's thicker than Pro Acryl, but like, I don't know, it's in a good spot. I
agree. Like, on
water and you're good.
On my wet palette, I treat it very much like Vallejo or two thin coats of, there's a glob on your wet palette. Yeah. And you kind of wet a brush and you pull paint out from the glob on your wet palette, and then kind of that outer perimeter is the good stuff.
It's the good stuff,
the correct thinned.
Right. Yeah, and then you got your reserves in the center in the glob.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
I like that way of painting too, of like, because it stays for a good amount of time on a wet palette. Whereas like, I really like the consistency and use of Pro Acryl, but it definitely thins out a little too much on a wet palette. Like, if you let it sit for too long. So I think this is it's in a good middle zone of that. It's not like you have to thin it out and thin it out and thin it out a lot to make it work on a wet palette. It's right in the middle. So
I want to mention one thing, and I don't know if you've had this observation, but when I've been like cleaning out my old wet palettes, like I use the paint, I come back to it the next day, open up the wet palette, I'm getting a smell. And I don't know if my pad's getting moldy and I gotta go listen to Vince about copper and everything, or I don't know if there's like something about the binder or the medium that it maybe has a little bit of smell to it. I mean, I don't know.
To be fair, most paints, in like mini paints, stink really, really bad, and that's because all the stuff that they put in there, the binders and all the stuff, it starts to kind of rot and it's not great. So they put smells in there to cover it up. Now, I noticed the two thin coats one because they put coconut oil in it and you can taste it. It's not a good thing. Don't do it. But I knew it, like literally within the first 5 minutes. This paint tastes like coconut.
Okay. So I just want to say, like, I am curious if anyone else has this experience. Like, when I'm painting, like, seems great. It's just the next day, it's just like, ooh, I've gotta wash this out. And again, I don't know. Yeah. Small sample size here. I'm not 100% sure. I paint right next to the cat litter box, but my nose is all messed up anyway.
You're getting some other stuff mixed in. Who knows? Personally, I haven't noticed anything with my wet palettes with this paint on it. I've been using this paint for 2.5, 3 months.
Okay. In
all the videos I've been doing too. Obviously not mentioning anything, just saying this is a red color. You know,
got him.
Yeah, got him. But like, I haven't noticed any weird smells, so I'm not sure. Could be just your wet palette's gone kind of gross.
Okay.
I know.
Call up Redgrass Games about that one.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
one
using
of
the,
you is betraying my nose.
You weren't using the Army Painter web palette, so it didn't work quite right.
Maybe that's why.
I don't know.
My mistake.
Yeah. No, my web palettes have been fine. Not super stinky, not more than usual, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always feel weird being one of the early reviewers because I don't want any like weird, stupid thing that I say to like become canon.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So I want to tentatively ask if anyone else has had that experience.
Yeah,
like
reactivation.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Old Spanish Casey, they call him.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Grumble.
Oh, that's deep. Yeah.
All right. I clearly said exactly what tests I was going to do on the speed paint to test it for the purposes of a one-coat application as it was marketed for.
Mm-hmm.
I clearly explained the tests, of which I did a dozen. I showed every test the results of in 4K high-resolution, crystal clear focus, and then people are like, you shill, you didn't show reactivation. Like, well,
if you didn't experience it, you didn't. It doesn't matter.
All I can say is look at all these tests, and it isn't in any of them. You can look at the footage. It's not a. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. I think it's kind of dumb for anybody to be like, well, you just didn't try hard enough or do anything enough. It's like, we bullshit around and shoot video all day, right? Like that's what we do. It's not like we're trying to like shill for these people or do anything stupid like that. Like we're painting models because it's fun.
Yeah. If any of the ways I was painting a model had reactivated, it would have been in the high resolution video that I shared with
literally, right? It's like it's not like I'm going back and doing a cover up video of the video I shot.
Show that one.
Yeah, you can't show this part of the footage. I gotta skip that. Like, it either happened or didn't. I don't know. Like, I've done plenty of times where I've gone back over paint I just painted, and like, I used some kind of watered down version of some other paint to do like my own wash on a thing, and then I, reactivated acrylic paint and cut some of it off or something. Like, this shit happens. Who cares? Plus, they fixed it. They got 2.0. It's all good. We're all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't blocked them all. There's gonna be some angry people in the comments anytime I paint with Army Painter. That's just the way it is these days. But,
I mean, okay, if anybody wants to,
but if they keep raising their hand, I'll keep calling on them with my little block function. Yeah,
exactly. I can make all these other accounts if they want to comment
one by one.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, my experience overall with the new paints has been pretty good. Like, I haven't had any issues. They do what they're supposed to do, and honestly, that's all you can really ask for with a lot of this stuff. It's like, I just want the paint to go on the palette, to go on the model, and not, it is the color that I thought it was going to be, right? Like, that's what I want, and that's what these do. So
I've been using them a fair bit, especially in the last couple of weeks here, and they haven't made me angry at all.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, they haven't made me angry. Like, there's some of the Orc Blood, Babe Blonde, they make me angry. Like, they viscerally angry.
Yeah.
Those are some old war paint colors.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it again. There are people out there right now who got some of the old Army Painter paints for Christmas. Some of the paints or whatever. Like, anytime there's a transition in technologies, there's going to be some dead enders, and there's going to be some people who accidentally invested at the wrong time. And half of your paints are still pretty dang good, and half of them you'll figure out which ones you want to modernize. And it happens. All of your stuff is usable. You can still paint some minis and have fun. I mean, there's 18-year-olds out there right now learning how to mine coal, and like transitions are rough. Like, that's all it is to it. Yeah. Somebody had to get the last gift of a Army Painter War Painter box set at that happens. That's actually, hey, maybe leave it in the wrapping. It's a collector's item. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. Okay.
Or open up the wrapper and figure out which half are the good half, and then you'll have a list of other colors to modernize or to try from some other brands or to try the new Fanatic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think in the title for my upcoming Warpainter Fanatic video, it's going to be like the worst paint line got modernized or something. Worst paint line got a second chance.
Gotta say, something good like that, because they did.
Yeah, when the one thing that makes me feel bad about that title isn't like Bo sitting in Denmark at Army Painter headquarters being like, but I liked that line of paint that I made. Like, yeah, he'll get over it. The people I feel bad for with that title are the people like the 12-year-old who just got a set of Army Painter paints for Christmas. I feel bad. Yeah. I feel bad for that person.
Because there have been several. I've seen pictures in some of the Facebook groups that are like, I just got these paints and it's so great. And everyone's like, in the comments, they're like, you didn't hear? Like,
no. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. And honestly, like, if that's the first big box you're getting, I think it's still gonna do just fine.
I mean,
it's when you hit like you get to the limits, right, of that particular paint line, you start running into those problems when you start even noticing that those problems are a thing. Yeah. And then you go, oh yeah, like this is not helping me anymore. Yeah.
So there were the same people, talking about like, oh, Speed Paint 2.0, I just got Speed Paint 1.0. In my mind, the difference between those two products is relatively small. I mean, there's some things you can do with one that you can't do with the other, but like, that's great. That's, I just got my 2014 Honda, but the 2015 Honda just came out. Exactly. Like, okay, well, you still got a car. Like, you can be fine. You can drive to work. It's all good.
Yeah.
Most people won't even know the difference of, one model year.
Yeah.
But the difference between the old Warpaint and the new Fanatic paint is striking enough that if you were one of the last people to receive that as a gift, like, shake it off. Like, this life is full of disappointments. I don't know.
Just squirt the excess whatever out of the bottle and upgrade when you run out. Yeah.
I the thing is, there's nothing I could really say to make that better. Like, that's just going to be a fact of life.
It is.
Yeah. It is. There are transitions between technologies. There are upgrades. Like, this is, I don't know. There's some good paints in there. You can dive on in there and have fun painting your first models or your first army or whatever. But yeah, you probably will recognize some colors that you wish were better, and know that there are better versions of those colors out there, and that's a good excuse to shop around, try some different paint lines, and replace them one by one or whatnot. Exactly. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. It's going to happen. It's the one thing I feel bad about as we march forward into the future and embrace progress.
Oh, for sure. No. So yeah, like I think in general, I really like the war paints that they've come out with. I haven't had any bad experiences so far. I've been using them on a consistent basis, and I got the the 50 paint set with the rack. I don't know if you've seen the rack.
So I have not. I got the 11 paint set and the 206.
Yeah. You got the big box and like the starter box.
Yeah. I've actually been spending the most time with the starter box. That is a good rack though. That is a good rack. Yeah.
It's a good Army Painter like branded rack. They also it got a bunch of stickers with it. Came with stickers.
Yeah, mine came with stickers too.
Yeah, I put stickers on my lockers.
Yeah,
feel good about it.
So actually, here's a point. So I have the massive box. That's a lot of colors, and I've actually been pretty much only using the 11 color starter box, like just to really get the feel for some individual colors, play around with the mixing a little bit. Also again, talking about beginners and people who are literally just getting their first paint set. If you're getting your first paint set and you don't even know if you really like the hobby yet, don't get 216 colors. Get 11 colors.
Good call. Yeah.
Like maybe if you're, if you are upper middle class, maybe you get to 50 colors. But
yeah, well, even then, like doing a little bit of calculation, I mean, that's still like what, probably $199 retail.
I think that might be true. Yeah, something.
I'm just guessing. I don't actually know, but
that sounds about guessing. Right. I do not know. Like that's one of the things about being an internet YouTuber influencers. We don't even know how much this stuff costs. So like it's no skin off our back. So we got to adjust for that bias too. But I've been spending a lot of time with the 11 paint set, and I've actually been getting some models that look pretty nice. Yeah. So that the paint set has one yellow, one red, one green, one blue. Mm-hmm. Brown, black, white, primer, strong tone, gold, silver. I think you got them all. But it doesn't even have a purple. Doesn't even have an orange. You got to do some mixing. Mm-hmm. That's not that you can make a good one of either of those with the mixing, but you can make it kind of passable. Mm-hmm. And I like the story that tells. Actually, is that you can definitely get some fun looking paint jobs with a small collection of paints. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can identify what you're missing, what you want to expand out on that collection from. And if there's like a color family that you really like, that expanded triad thing that they do, which is actually a color family of 6 different lightness, darknesses within the same color hue. Whatever.
That paint or whatever.
6 different tones within the same hue, I guess. That's actually a pretty good way to do it. Like if you're painting your orcs and you're like, wow, I wish I had an actual highlight color handy and I didn't have to mix it every time. You can just go out and buy that. Like it's in the color progression. It's pretty obvious what you want to do if you're highlighting within the same hue, basically.
Yeah, and it is within like its own set. Like they could easily sell sets of like, well, here's the 6 in this particular yellow. Like the warm yellow set is like, the orange to bright yellow. And then, per your recommendation, they put the nice, perfectly good, readable names on the side. So I'm holding this ice yellow, which is actually a really good color. That is reminiscent of the Vallejo, like ice yellow. I'm not sure if it's the same name. The one that you mix into a lot of stuff for a highlight though, and it works very well. Which I've been doing.
Pale yellow, right?
Pale yellow, yeah. So in this case, it's ice yellow, but on the side it says very light yellow, and that is
wonderful.
True. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I like the names that they have for their color families. I like that they, kind of identify where you are in the progression. It basically says you're, 1 through 6. I think they do it like cell phone bars of where you are.
Yeah, it looks like
light to dark.
A 5G signal.
Yeah, you get the 5G signal for your.
Ice yellow is at the top of the 5G network there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But no, I really like that. So. I think I was in the room when they were deciding how many paints would be in the range. When I did my visit to Denmark a year ago, basically. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they were talking about 200 and whatever, because I think Bo had a vision of the rack in stores.
Oh, sure.
Like I think it came to in a dream, like what the store rack would look like. And so that's
so good.
Did the multiplication, and that's 206, 216, whatever it is. And I was like, that sounds like a lot. Like I feel like a color range should be like 100, maybe plus some for effect paints or whatever. Mm-hmm. But man, then I see those groupings of 6 of those colors, and it's like six brilliant blue colors, 6 pale blue colors, 6 gray blue colors. I'm like, okay, 6 green blue colors. I'm like, okay, it's nice to have that choice, and not that you need to buy all of those, because that's a lot of dang paints. But it's nice to have that choice. It's nice to have the ease of shopping if you are trying to do more work in one part of the color wheel, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it actually, it makes a lot of sense. Like you see them, especially when you see them lined up, because they have the hues on the bottle from darkest to lightest, and then they have a little arrow over the top of whatever the paint is that you've got. And like, it makes a lot of sense. You start looking at it and you're like, yeah, I guess I would need that kind of a range. Like if you're starting from the darkest and moving up,
yeah,
like that's super necessary. So I can understand how that would like grow kind of out of control very fast. You know, you go from 100 to like, oh, we're past 200 at this point. Like,
yeah. So we both do like we like kind of all the paints that have triads that explicitly group paints together because it's convenient and it's logical. And I really like the way that the Army Painter Air Paints does it. The label on each of those paints is, okay, this is the like Chaos Red Triad, and it writes the names of the 3 paints. I would like them better if they were, you know, practical names, but it at least writes the 3 names on the side of each one and says you are here at position 1 or 2 or 3 in this triad. And so that helps you understand. And this is an even better version of that, essentially. Yeah.
It's definitely more in-depth.
This is the family you're in, and this is where you are in that family.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like I use their air paints a lot anymore. It's a good system. There's only been maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 colors where I'm like, this mid-tone is not necessary. Like just go from the base to the highlight kind of thing. But I mean, for the most part, like they're pretty spot on. And in this, like you're getting even more subtlety in the transition. Yeah. So you have a lot of options.
Right. And you know, if you go to the store and you're buying individual bottles, I would actually suggest that you only buy 3 from each of these families. Mm-hmm. But you can look at them and say, like, I like the darker side of the teal family. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get the darker teals. Or you can be like, you know what, these colors are close enough together that I can skip color 2 and color 5 and, you know, or whatever. Yeah. And,
well, they say on the bottom too, near the kind of 5G bar, what family it is in. Like I'm looking at the teals right now because I've got them in my hand. Yeah. And it just says teals on the bottom, and it's like, there's 6 colors in this, and it's like bluish green and brilliant bluish green. It's like the next step up. It's just a little bit brighter. It's more, you know, it makes perfect sense. So you're buying like 3, and if you think of it as a broken up triad, you're like, well, I want dark teals, you know, green blues. Then you have a triad that works from dark to mid to highlight. Yeah. And then if you want to go even higher, you know, you can start anywhere in between and have 3 that work.
Right. There's a lot of times where I'm using a triad from a company where I wish that the highlight was the mid-tone, or I wish that the dark one was the mid-tone, or, you know, so I wish like the whole triad was shifted a little bit in either direction.
Right, exactly.
And so, one of the ways you can do this is like, if you need a triad of teal colors, you go to the rack, you see the 6 from that color family, you buy the 3 that you think you're going to get the most use out of, but they're still grouped together very clearly, like these work together. Or you just go nuts. But like I said, I've been doing most of my work with that a little 11 paint starter, and I think that's just in some ways a more healthy way to do it, of just to be like, this is this is a very reasonable investment to give a friend for their birthday, or to you know, keep in your closet for a rainy day if you have a child and then you need a emergency, like we're doing crafts today.
Well, and they're not like overly expensive for decent paints too, and that's where I really think that they're doing the best job, right? Is like they're in every store, they're at a reasonable price point. You know, even if it's not as low as they were before, it's also, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times better than it was before. So yeah, like it's just good. It's good.
Yep. This is big progress again. Like, so many new painters, this will be the first paint they experience.
Yeah.
And having that line or that brand go from one of the worst that they could pick up off the shelf to, I mean, we haven't done enough testing to say if it's one of the best or not, but it is solidly in the pack of good paints right now.
I mean, I think that for anything that 99% of miniature painters need to or want to accomplish, this will do that. I haven't had any problem putting it through an airbrush or glazing with it, or, you know, even making like washes or whatever with it, just thinning it out and doing whatever, painting it straight on and just, you know, making sure that glob of paint goes far. Not any issues so far. It's just, it works. Like you said, like, you haven't been mad at it. You haven't sat back and been like, you know, this color is really annoying. Like, no, it's not having
that's I think that's our review. We've been playing around with the Warpaint Fanatic, and we haven't gotten mad at it yet. I'm gonna keep using it for a while to try to get the experience. I mean, I already had plenty of paints, like
right.
You know, prior to getting a shipment of Warpaint Fanatics, I had, you know, my go-tos were Pro Acryl, and then, you know, filling in the missing colors with too thin coats. Also had like the Reaper. Reaper has the Bones brand, but I'm trying to say the Reaper Bones colors, like the 4 bone colors. I had Reaper on my desk.
I know what you mean.
Had some Vallejo, especially the Vallejo Metallics, but like I've got paints. I'm fine on paints. I can paint anything I want. I'm good. And so I didn't need like $700 or $800 box of 200 paints. This was not necessary. But for education and to being able to give people an opinion on what I think, I'm using these. I'm giving them a shot. Like I definitely do appreciate the labeling system. I hope that pressures the other brands to do the same whenever they update their labels. You know,
I mean, to be honest though, like the more out of the more recent paint sets that have come out, like Pro Acryl and Army Painter, like all of their different paints that have come out, the naming conventions have been much better overall. They just have. So I don't know about like the Creature Caster stuff or the Cuttlefish stuff. I'm not sure because I'm very unfamiliar with those. So I don't know what the naming conventions are on those paints. And I think those are the newest other sets that I can think about. Yeah. But like,
and I'm curious about those too. Like
for sure.
I should pick up a few at Adepticon this year and put them in my toiletry bag on the way home and give them some proper testing. Cause like, I want to know about this stuff. Like I want to have the experience to be able to talk about them, be able to have the context, but.
Well, exactly. And I've missed out on some of those paints cause it's like I've seen them and I've been near them and then just been like, oh, I'll get to that later, and then forgot, you know.
Happens.
So of course, yeah.
I remember to get my huge miniatures paints, like a 3 of those I got at Adepticon last time. Jammed them in my toiletries bag, got them back home.
Where was
tested them out. They're like, yeah, they were around. They're there.
See, I mean, I don't remember it all.
Just one of the smaller booths. The couple who's responsible for the huge miniature companies was there and hanging out, selling paint. I got some.
Pretty sure I was home, with you, and I literally don't remember.
They're fine. They're good. They're on the thicker side, but they're good. Yeah.
I like thick. Give it to me thick. That's good.
There you go.
That printed. It's my tagline.
All right. If you see Casey at Adepticon, you remind him to pick up some of them Cuttlefish colors.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Oh man.
And ask him if he has any kobolds in his pocket.
I do. I will.
I'll have more. We've got a couple of months until Adepticon. I will be giving out more instructions for what to do when you see Casey.
I will have kobolds. I did a massive buyout of kobold cards, MTG cards, on eBay, and I bought like, I don't know, 200, 300 of the kobold cards. I mean, that's not anything in terms of like buying out an actual card, but I bought a lot of kobold cards, And we were hiding them around the hotel last time in the convention center. It was good. And I know they disappeared. Nobody said anything about it, but they disappeared. People took them. So we're going to be doing that again this year in a couple months. And of course, you know, the Kobold Talk is coming up at any time.
Stay on your toes.
Exactly.
Stay on your little claws.
Yeah. Exactly. Because we got some cool facts that we got to drop for episode 3. I also had a not so much a story, but a little update. So about 100 episodes ago, you know, I brought up my pool table and I was trying to sell it. And eventually, after many episodes of, it was like 4 or 5 episodes, I don't even know. It wasn't that long, okay? It wasn't that long. I sold the pool table. And ever since I've sold it, I kind of regretted it, you know? Good 4 years ago. I felt pretty bad. I wish I hadn't. And for this Christmas, my wife got me like a 3-in-1 pool table, ping pong and dining set, benches and chairs, and it's basically a game table. I just wanted to say, after 100 episodes, I'm back with the pool table. I feel really good about it, and
yeah. Casey just hasn't been the same for about 100 episodes.
I feel like that. I really do.
He's back on his game now.
Yeah, we're back at it. We get to play some pool and you know, some Warhammers on top of the table.
The future is blindingly bright at this point here at Paint Bravely, the podcast.
It's true. So we don't plan on changing. We don't plan on stopping. We actually have some really big stuff coming up. Some actually serious, real stuff coming up, which we weren't really going to talk about.
I remember that you're not joking.
I'm definitely not joking.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we were really going to talk about it, and I don't know that we are. We still haven't talked about whether or not we're going to talk about it. I was kind of going to wrap this up because we
do actually have some really big stuff coming up, but we're not quite ready yet. But we'll tell you. But keep a little notepad going with your Kobold facts. Remember to listen to us talk about whatever our big thing is. Remember to ask Casey various questions on Adepticon. And just know that 100 episodes later, he's got his pool table back. He's got his mojo back.
Things are just right in the world. It's been 4 years. I feel like myself again.
The future isn't all bad, Casey. It's not all bad at all.
Not at all. To another 100. I think we're good. Even though, like, what is it? Next week is like 4 years
all you
or something.
Paint Bravely listeners who are still here. Yeah.
We do appreciate you. Well, in that case, thank you again for joining us on another episode of Paint Bravely. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and sharing this message with your hobby friends. And as always, we appreciate each and every one of you who are listening, and we will talk to you next time. I really hope Matt cuts that like big gap out of the middle. It'd almost be funnier if he didn't know.
I just sat here playing Boom Beach.
That'd be even better.
No, I went to go refill my Dr. McGillicuddy, so I came back here and played Boom Beach.
God, I hope that the sound effects were loud. Did you have it on like not silent?
No, I didn't. No, it was silent.
Pew, pew, pew. That'd be so good.